I never expected my own blood to turn against me like this. The text from my mother said it was just a casual family get-together to catch up after my busy year at the law firm. But the moment Cindy and I pulled up to the 2-story brick house in the quiet Chicago suburbs, the knot in my stomach told me otherwise. We walked through the front door hand in hand, my heart pounding as the usual chatter from the living room stopped dead, the laughter that had been echoing moments before vanishing into a heavy oppressive silence that made the air feel thick and unbreathable. The room smelled like my mother's famous arroz con pollo and fresh-baked bread, the table set for 8 with the good china, but nobody was eating. My father sat at the head of the long oak table, his hands folded so tight the knuckles were white. My mother stood by the window twisting her rosary beads, her eyes already red-rimmed. My sister Anna avoided my gaze, picking at a loose thread on her sweater. Uncle Carlos and Aunt Rosa flanked a man I didn't recognize in a crisp button-down who held a notebook like he was there to take minutes. My little brother Marco leaned against the wall, arms crossed, trying to look tough, but his face betrayed confusion. They had all been laughing about something seconds ago, probably some joke about how I needed to settle down with a good man, but now every eye locked on Cindy and me, our fingers still laced together like a declaration. "Mariana, what is this?" my father said, his voice low and controlled the way it got right before he delivered a lecture that could last an hour. "I thought we made it clear this was family only." Cindy squeezed my hand once, a silent reminder that we had rehearsed this moment 100 times in our tiny apartment downtown. I lifted my chin, forcing my voice steady even though my legs felt like they might give out. "You said it was a family meeting to help me, Dad. Well, here I am, and this is my family too." Cindy smiled softly at them, all her dark eyes calm, but I could feel the tremor in her grip. She was a freelance photographer who captured raw human moments for a living, yet nothing had prepared her for this. My mother gasped, covering her mouth as if I'd slapped her. The man in the button-down cleared his throat, standing up. "And Pastor Ramirez, your parents asked me to facilitate a conversation today, Mariana. We care about you deeply, and we believe you've been led astray by certain influences." Influences? The word landed like a stone in still water, rippling through the room. Anna finally looked up, her cheeks flushed. "We just want you to be happy, sis. Remember how you used to talk about getting married in the church, having kids, the whole picture? This isn't you." I felt the old familiar twist in my chest, the one that had kept me silent for years. At 29, I was a senior associate at one of the top firms in the city, handling high-profile cases that made partners notice me. On paper, I had everything but the secret I carried about Cindy, the woman who made me laugh until my sides hurt and held me through every late-night doubt, had become too heavy to hide anymore. Cindy stepped forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Hi everyone. I'm Cindy. Mariana and I have been together for 3 years. We love each other and we thought it was time you knew." The silence stretched longer this time, broken only by my mother's soft sob. My father rose slowly, his chair scraping loud against the hardwood. 3 years. You brought this into my house without warning. We planned this afternoon to help you see clearly, to pray with you, to remind you of the path God intended. And you walk in here like it's nothing. I swallowed hard, fighting the burn behind my eyes. "It isn't nothing, Dad. It's everything." The cost of pretending had already eaten away at me. Late nights crying in the car after family dinners where they pushed photos of eligible men from church, my mother's worried texts asking why I never brought anyone home. Cindy had been my anchor through it all, but now standing here I wondered if love was worth watching my family crumble in real time. Uncle Carlos muttered something in Spanish about disgrace while Aunt Rosa crossed herself. Pastor Ramirez opened his notebook. "Let's all sit down and discuss this rationally. Feelings are valid, but choices have consequences." I glanced at Cindy, her jaw set in that quiet strength I adored. We moved to the table, but no one offered us seats. The laughter from before was gone, replaced by the kind of quiet that precedes a storm. I had walked into their correction meeting thinking I could face it alone, but bringing Cindy changed everything. As the first accusations began to fly, I realized the real battle wasn't just about who I loved, but about whether my family could love me back without conditions. The price was already climbing and we hadn't even started. My mind raced back to the drive over when Cindy had kissed my knuckles at every red light, whispering, "We don't have to do this today." But I did. For months my sister had been hinting at family concerns, my mother sending articles about therapy that could help with same-sex attraction. I thought if I showed them the truth they would see how real and beautiful it was. Instead, the room felt smaller every second, the walls closing in with judgment. Cindy sat beside me, her shoulder brushing mine, a small anchor in the chaos. I reached for her hand again under the table, our fingers intertwining like a promise against the rising tide of disappointment. This was only the beginning. The pastor started with prayer, his voice smooth and practiced, asking for guidance and open hearts. I bowed my head out of habit, but my thoughts spun wild. How many times had I sat in this same room as a kid listening to similar prayers about staying on the straight path, never imagining the path would lead me to Cindy. When he finished, my father jumped in, his eyes fixed on me like I was a witness on the stand. "Mariana, we love you. That's why we called this meeting. Your sister told us you've been distant, struggling, and we know it's because of this confusion. We brought Pastor Ramirez because he's helped others find their way back." Anna shifted in her seat, her face pale. "I didn't mean to betray you, sis, but Mom kept asking and I thought if we all talked you'd see." Betray. The word hit harder than any slap. Anna and I had always been close, 2 years apart, sharing secrets about boys and dreams, until I met Cindy at a charity gala 2 years ago. She had been photographing the event, her camera capturing moments others missed, and when our eyes met across the crowded ballroom, something clicked. We talked for hours that night about art, law, and the pressure of immigrant parents who sacrificed everything for their kids' success. Cindy understood the weight I carried, the first-generation American guilt, mixed with the fear of disappointing the family that had fled hardship in Mexico to give me opportunities. We kept it quiet at first, stolen weekends away from the city, but the secrecy started eating at me until I confided in Anna 6 months ago, thinking she would support me. Instead, she had run straight to our parents. Cindy spoke up, her tone even. "Confusion isn't the word I'd use. Mariana is the strongest, most compassionate person I know, and loving her has made me better too." My mother wiped her eyes. "But the Bible says." I cut in gently but firm. "Mom, I've read it too. I've prayed about it for years. This isn't a phase. It's who I am." My father slammed his palm on the table, making the glasses jump. "Who you are is our daughter, raised in faith and tradition. This woman is leading you away from everything we built." Uncle Carlos nodded vigorously. "In our culture, family comes first. What will the neighbors say, the church?" The word stung because I knew the social cost. As a lawyer, I had seen clients lose jobs, promotions, and custody battles over less visible truths. My firm prided itself on diversity, but whispers traveled fast and tight, knit professional circles, and my conservative Latino community in the suburbs would not stay silent. Inside my chest, a storm raged. Part of me wanted to bolt, grab Cindy's hand, and drive away to our apartment where we could curl up with takeout and pretend the world outside didn't exist. But another part, the daughter who had studied late into the night to make her parents proud, refused to run. I had paid the price of hiding already missed holidays, fake dates with men from church to keep peace. Cindy had never pushed me to come out, but when I told her about this meeting, she said, "If you go, I go." Now facing the fallout, I questioned if I had been selfish bringing her into the fire. Her family in California had accepted us with open arms, barbecues and beach days where no one batted an eye. Why couldn't mine do the same? The discussion spiraled. Pastor Ramirez pulled out pamphlets about counseling programs that promised to align desires with Scripture. My aunt shared stories of cousins who had strayed and returned stronger. Marco stayed quiet, but his eyes darted between us, clearly torn between loyalty to Dad and the big sister who had helped him with homework growing up. Anna kept apologizing under her breath, but the damage was done. Cindy fielded questions with grace, explaining how we met, how we supported each other's careers, how love wasn't a choice but a truth. Each answer chipped away at the family's composure until my father stood again, his voice rising. "Enough. You will not throw away your future for this. We raised you better." The unexpected consequence of their correction plan was unfolding right before them. The daughter they thought they could guide back was standing taller beside the woman they wanted erased. I felt tears pricking but blinked them away. The internal conflict tore at me, family loyalty drilled into me since birth versus the authentic life I had found with Cindy. Every accusation made me relive the nights I had cried alone, wondering if I was broken. Cindy rubbed small circles on my back, a silent vow that I wasn't. As the afternoon wore on, the tension thickened like the humidity before a thunderstorm. I knew this meeting was only the opening act, and the real costs were yet to come: the strained relationships, the potential family rift, the whispers that would follow me at work and church. But in that moment, holding Cindy's hand, I felt a spark of clarity. Love demanded courage, and I was finally ready to pay the price, even if it meant watching my family's laughter turn to silence forever. By late afternoon, the living room felt like a courtroom with me on trial. My mother brought out old photo albums, flipping to pictures of me in my quinceañera dress, smiling beside my father, her voice cracking as she said, "This is the real Mariana, the one who made us proud." I stared at the images, the girl with big dreams of becoming a lawyer to help immigrants like my parents. Cindy sat quietly beside me, her presence a steady light in the gathering dark. She had faced her own share of prejudice growing up as a queer Asian American in a traditional household. But her parents had eventually embraced her after years of patient conversations. Mine seemed determined to skip the conversation and jump straight to correction. Anna finally broke her silence, tears streaming. "I told them because I was scared for you, sis. You stopped coming to Sunday dinners, you seemed so distant. I thought this meeting would help us all reconnect." The betrayal cut deep because Anna had been my confidant, the one I called after my first date with Cindy, gushing about how she made the world brighter. Instead, she had weaponized that trust, turning our family into an ambush. I wanted to scream at her, but the hurt in her eyes mirrored my own. We had both been raised to put family harmony above everything else, and now that code was fracturing us. Cindy leaned in, whispering only loud enough for me to hear, "You don't have to forgive right now, just breathe." Her words anchored me, reminding me of the nights she had listened to my fears without judgment. My father turned to Cindy, his gaze hard. "What do you do for a living? How do you plan to support my daughter if she throws away her career for this lifestyle?" Cindy met his eyes without flinching. "I'm a photographer, sir. I document stories that matter. And right now the story that matters most is ours. I help Mariana unwind after long cases. We cook together. We dream about a future where we don't have to hide." Her calm dignity made the room shift uncomfortably. Uncle Carlos scoffed, but Aunt Rosa looked thoughtful for the first time. The moral conflict played across every face, tradition versus the raw humanity in front of them. I felt it inside too, the voice that whispered, "Maybe they're right, maybe I'm selfish for wanting both family and love." Flashbacks flooded me as the arguments continued. The night Cindy and I first said "I love you" on a rooftop overlooking the city lights, her camera capturing the moment forever. The weekend we drove to Michigan to escape the pressure, pretending we were just friends at a bed and breakfast. The times I canceled plans with family because the guilt of lying became too much. Each memory reinforced the truth I had found with her, but also highlighted the price I was paying now. My brother Marco finally spoke up, his voice cracking. "Sis, you always told me to be honest. Is this what you meant?" The question hung heavy, forcing me to confront the example I was setting. If I backed down now, what message would that send to him about living truthfully? The pastor suggested a break for prayer, but the damage was spreading. My mother pulled me aside in the kitchen, her hands trembling as she gripped my arms. "Mariana, please think of us. Your father has health issues. The church community will gossip. What about grandchildren?" I hugged her, feeling her tears soak my blouse, the internal war raging louder. Love for my family clashed with love for Cindy, each demanding sacrifice. Cindy waited in the living room, fielding more questions with patience that amazed me. When we rejoined the group, the tension had thickened further. Anna admitted she had shown my parents texts from our conversations, the ones where I confessed my feelings. The betrayal stung fresh, but it also sparked a strange clarity. If hiding had led to this, maybe openness was the only way forward, even if it meant losing pieces of the life I knew. As dusk fell outside the windows, the family pressed harder, quoting scripture, sharing testimonies of change. I listened to each one, weighing the cost of compliance versus defiance. Cindy never wavered, her hand finding mine repeatedly, a quiet promise that whatever happened we faced it together. The psychological toll mounted, every word chipping at my resolve, but also strengthening my conviction. This meeting, designed to fix me, was instead revealing the fractures in our family foundation. The social prejudices they voiced about career ruin, community shame, and cultural dishonor mirrored the fears I had battled alone for years. Now voiced aloud, they lost some power. I began to see the price each of us paid, my family for their rigidity, me for my silence. The awakening was slow but undeniable. Love wasn't the problem, the refusal to accept it was. Night had fallen by the time the conversation turned uglier. My father paced the room, his shadow stretching long across the carpet. "You think this is love, Mariana, but it's deception. You've lied to us for years, and now you bring her here to rub it in our faces." The words landed like blows, but I stood my ground. "Dad, I lied because I was terrified of exactly this. I wanted to protect you from disappointment, but protecting you meant losing myself. Cindy nodded, her voice steady. We didn't come to fight. We came to be seen. The room erupted again, Uncle Carlos accusing Cindy of stealing me away, Aunt Rosa pleading for me to think of my immortal soul. The societal weight pressed down hard, the unspoken rules of our community, where being different meant being alone. My career flashed in my mind, the partners who praised my work, but whose conservative values might shift if word spread. One client had already hinted at discomfort with progressive causes. If family gossip reached the firm, the whispers could cost me the promotion I had fought for. Cindy faced her own pressures. Freelance work dried up when clients learned about us in smaller circles. Yet she chose me every day despite the trade-offs. The moral dilemma tore at me. Was it right to prioritize personal happiness when it shattered the family that sacrificed for my education, my opportunities? Anna cried openly, now admitting the guilt that had driven her to organize the meeting with our parents. I thought I was saving you, but now I see I was breaking us. Pastor Ramirez tried to steer toward compromise, suggesting I attend counseling while keeping things private. The idea made my skin crawl. Hide again after finally stepping into the light. Cindy squeezed my hand tighter, her eyes meeting mine with that fierce protectiveness I loved. No one should have to choose between family and self, she said quietly, but loud enough for all to hear. The statement hung, sparking fresh debate. My mother whispered about grandkids again, her voice breaking the dream she had woven since my childhood. I felt the cost in her words, the future she mourned. Marco retreated to the corner, texting someone, probably friends, who would hear the family version first. The betrayal chain reaction was already spreading. Internal voices clashed louder now, the dutiful daughter versus the woman who had found joy in Cindy's arms. I remembered the first time we danced in our kitchen to old salsa music, laughing until we cried, the freedom of being unseen. Those moments contrasted sharply with this room full of conditional love. The confrontation escalated when my father demanded I choose right then, either end it or leave the family. The ultimatum froze everyone. Cindy's face paled, but she stayed silent, giving me space to decide. Tears burned my eyes as I weighed the options, the life of secrecy I had known or the uncertain path ahead. In that heartbeat I saw the price each woman paid, my mother for her silence, my sister for her interference, Cindy for her unwavering support, and me for finally speaking. The discussion dragged into hours with breaks for coffee and more tears. Each revelation peeled back layers of resentment and fear. Aunt Rosa shared her own hidden regrets about a sister who had left the family decades ago over similar issues. The pattern repeated across generations, making the stakes feel heavier. Cindy shared stories of her own coming-out journey, the initial rejection followed by slow healing. Her vulnerability softened a few edges, but not enough. The social prejudices poured out, concerns about neighborhood stares, church exclusion, and lost connections. I countered with the isolation I had felt pretending to be someone else, the anxiety that had led to sleepless nights and therapy sessions I never told them about. The logic held tight, each decision leading to its consequence. My hiding had invited this intervention, my honesty was forcing change. As midnight approached, exhaustion set in, but clarity emerged. I was no longer the girl they remembered, but a woman who had built a life on truth. Cindy stood as my equal, not a temptation but a partner. The family saw it too in the way we leaned on each other, the quiet strength that defied their script. The meeting had backfired spectacularly. Their attempt to correct me had instead highlighted the beauty of what they feared. Yet the pain was real, the rifts deepening with every word. I knew the road ahead would demand more sacrifices, career risks, strained holidays, and perhaps permanent distance. But in Cindy's eyes I saw the reward worth every cost. The clock struck 1 when the breaking point arrived. My father slammed his fist on the table again, this time rattling the family photos on the wall. If you walk out that door with her, don't expect us at your wedding or your funeral. The threat sliced through the room, leaving gasps in its wake. My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing openly. Anna reached for her, but stopped short, her own guilt paralyzing her. Marco looked shattered, the big sister he idolized now the source of family fracture. Cindy rose slowly, pulling me up with her. We don't want to hurt anyone, but we want to apologize for existing. Her words were simple, yet powerful, the culmination of hours of defense. Inside me the conflict peaked, years of internalized shame crashing against the joy Cindy had brought. I had traded pieces of myself for family approval, good grades, church attendance, the perfect daughter facade. Now the bill came due. The pastor attempted one last prayer, but the words felt hollow against the raw emotion. Uncle Carlos muttered about disownment while Aunt Rosa pleaded for one more chance. The betrayal from Anna burned hottest. She had known my heart and chosen sides anyway. Yet even in her tears I saw love twisted by fear, the same fear that had kept me silent so long. Social prejudices amplified everything, the fear of what others would say, the loss of community, standing that defined my parents' world. I stepped forward, my voice finally steady after hours of turmoil. I love you all, but I love myself too, and I love Cindy. This isn't a phase or a mistake. It's my life and I'm choosing it. The declaration hung heavy, triggering a wave of reactions. My father turned away, his shoulders slumping in defeat or anger, I couldn't tell. My mother whispered my name like a prayer. The cost crystallized in that moment: fractured relationships, potential isolation from the extended family, and the emotional weight that would linger for years. Cindy wrapped an arm around me, her touch grounding me against the storm. We had both paid dearly, she with estranged relatives early on, me with this night of reckoning. Yet standing together felt like victory amid the ruins. The confrontation spiraled into accusations of selfishness, ingratitude, and sin. Each one tested my resolve, forcing me to examine every choice. Had I rushed this by bringing Cindy? Should I have eased them in gradually? The doubts swirled, but Cindy's quiet strength reminded me of our shared moments: the hospital vigil when my father had surgery, the way she had supported me through bar exams without demanding recognition. Love wasn't without sacrifice, but the alternative, denial, had cost me more. As the family exhausted itself, the room fell into exhausted silence, the same silence that had greeted our arrival, now heavier with finality. Pastor Ramirez packed his notes, offering follow-up sessions. No one accepted. In the hallway, as we gathered our coats, my sister pulled me aside. I thought I was helping. Please don't hate me. Her plea echoed my own inner questions about right and wrong. I hugged her briefly, the gesture bittersweet. Hate isn't the word, but trust will take time. Cindy waited by the door, her eyes reflecting the same exhaustion and resolve. The night had exposed every crack, the moral dilemmas of loyalty versus authenticity, the trade-offs of truth. My career hung in uncertain balance, whispers would spread, family influence reached far. Yet the awakening burned bright. I was no longer willing to pay the price of invisibility. We stepped into the cool night air, the suburban street quiet under streetlights, our hands linked once more. The meeting had shattered more than silence, it had forced every woman in that room to face her own costs: my mother, her dreams; my sister, her actions; Cindy, her patience; and me, my future. Dawn was breaking as we drove away from the house, the Chicago skyline glowing faint on the horizon. Cindy rested her head on my shoulder in the passenger seat, her hand never leaving mine. We didn't speak much, the weight of the night settling like dew. Back in our apartment, we collapsed on the couch, the city sounds filtering through the windows, a reminder that life continued beyond family walls. I replayed every moment, the shocked faces, the accusations, the tears. The psychological toll lingered, a dull ache in my chest, but alongside it grew a fierce pride. I had chosen, and the choosing came with freedom. Over the following weeks, the consequences unfolded in waves. My mother called once, crying, asking me to come for dinner alone. I declined, gently explaining that Cindy and I were a package. Anna sent long texts full of apologies and memories, trying to rebuild, but the trust fracture ran deep. My father remained silent, his silence louder than any shout. Word trickled through the community, a cousin mentioned awkward questions at church, the firm partners gave me sidelong glances during meetings. The social costs mounted, invitations dried up, old friends distanced themselves. Cindy faced her own ripple effects, a gallery show cancelled after a sponsor learned of the drama. We leaned on each other harder, cooking meals late into the night, talking through the pain. The betrayal from Anna evolved into tentative reconciliation coffee meetings, where she admitted her fear stemmed from her own unspoken doubts about tradition. My mother sent a card on my birthday, simple words: I love you both. Small cracks of light appeared, but the foundation remained shaken. I advanced at work anyway, proving my worth case after case, the professional cost less than feared. Cindy landed bigger assignments, her photos capturing resilience, themes that mirrored our journey. The moral questions haunted quiet moments: was it right to force the truth on them, or had their intervention left me no choice? Each decision carried weight, the trade-off of family closeness for personal integrity. Months later, at a small gathering with Cindy's accepting family, I felt the contrast sharply. Laughter flowed freely, no corrections needed. Yet the ache for my own remained. One evening my father showed up unannounced at our door, his face lined with exhaustion. We talked for hours, not resolving everything but planting seeds. He didn't apologize fully, but he met Cindy, shook her hand. The gesture cost him pride, cost me years of hiding. The family dynamics shifted slowly. Holidays became cautious negotiations, but progress came. I realized every woman paid her price, my mother for clinging to old dreams, Anna for misguided help, Cindy for enduring rejection, and me for demanding truth. The experience transformed us all, forcing confrontation with prejudices and fears. Love had won, not without scars but with deeper understanding. As I stood on our balcony one evening watching the city lights with Cindy beside me, I reflected on the journey. The correction meeting had failed spectacularly, but in its failure lay awakening. We built a life on our terms, careers intact, bonds redefined. The drama had tested every limit, revealing the strength in our choices. In the end, the silence that had greeted our entrance became the space where new conversations could begin, however halting. Who was truly right, the daughter who refused to hide her love for Cindy, or the family that believed their correction would save her soul?